In this video, I will review many of Gordon's ideas concerning the first three levels of skill development. They are aural, verbal association, and partial synthesis. Because it's relatively obvious how to create an aural strategy, lesson, or activity, you're just presenting music to children and having them sing back without any, or in later stages of that level, you're having them respond with appropriate singing without the use of a mnemonic. And at the verbal association, you're simply attaching a mnemonic to what you're already doing. And many of us are already doing that successfully. This particular video will have ideas on how to move on to the next stage, which is partial synthesis. Remember that one of the hallmarks of Gordon's idea and all pedagogy, or good pedagogy, is that you can understand something without labeling it. That's the whole idea of aural. You're building a child or an adult or a middle school or high school student's understanding of something. For example, the movement from 5 to 1, or a phrase that is 4 bars long, something like that. You can get them to understand that, the structure of music, the harmonic progression of music, without labeling it. That's the whole idea of aural. Just give it to them, and that's it. To use an example that is not musical, you're going to saturate your child, your own flesh and blood, with love from day one. And you're not necessarily going to label the fact that you're loving this child, that you love this child. You're just going to love the child. And the child is going to get the idea of love without ever hearing this word. Because really the word love doesn't mean a whole lot if there's nothing behind it. So we want something behind. The idea, again, of aural is that you're giving this behind-the-scenes understanding of harmonic progression, of rhythmic cadence, of rhythmic length, meter, without confusing the child with anything else. Without that, the rest is a house of cards. That's his idea. So, once that's in place, you move on to verbal association. You're simply labeling something that the child already knows. Again, you're labeling something that the child already understands at a gut level. Going back to love, your child understands what love is for, let's say, 5 years, and then on his or her 6th birthday, you use the word love for the first time. You're now, at 6 years of age, you're giving a label to something the child already knows. The same idea here with verbal association. Since the aural level of learning, or that stage of learning, is to build an understanding, a gut intuitive understanding of the variability of music, or at least 4 variants. We know that it can be varied major, minor, and in duple and triple. Although there are many, many more, we know that those are the big 4, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse for Western music. Children will have experience singing a familiar song, This Old Man, in both modes. So we have Yum, bum, 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 bum. Or Yum bum 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 bum. Yum bum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum ba-da bum ba-da ba ba bum. Yadum bum ba-dum bum. Or they can sing it in major. Yum bum 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 bum. Ba ba bum 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 ba da ba ba bum. Ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum. And they can identify major, minor, and they can label major, minor, duple, triple. At the partial synthesis level where we are right now, you'll want to challenge your students to be able to hear the differences, recognize the differences between major and minor in a familiar pattern, a familiar song. So, we have this old man, he played knick-knack on my drum. Okay, there's the first part. With a knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone, this old man came rolling home. Two-part song. We have the part that changes and the part that remains the same. Sing half of the song in one mode and half of the song in the other mode, and ask children to identify which half was sung in which mode. This is partial synthesis. So, bum 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 bum, be-dum bum bum ba-dum bum, ba-da bum 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 ba-da ba ba bum, ba-yum bum 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 bum. Okay. Which part did I sing in major? Which part did I sing in minor? Gordon writes, because students are expected to listen to a series of patterns performed in pairs and then compare the two series to determine the tonality or the meter of each, this allows the use of a simple song that has very recognizable phrases as the perfect medium for this sort of task. Remember, it's in pairs. You're singing a pair of phrases, or you're chanting a pair of rhythms. Pairs. In a song, using a neutral syllable. Frere Jacques. Ba-dum be-dum ba-dum be-dum ba-dum be ba-dum be ba-da-da-da-dee-yum ba-da-dee-da-dee-yum bum 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 ba. Or London Bridges. Yum bum bum ba bum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum bum be-dee-dee-dee-dee yum yum ba-dum. For you to do this correctly will take some practice. It's okay to go slow. Go as slow as you need to go to get it right. And it takes some practice. Intellectually, it should be really easy to do. It's not. For most of us, it's a hard thing to do. And it only gets easier with practice. The only way I learned to type really effectively and efficiently was typing out a 300-page dissertation. After that, I could type anything. Practice, my friends, practice. In his book, Learning Sequences in Music, Gordon writes, quote, because students are expected to listen to series, many patterns, performed in pairs, and then compare the two series to determine the tonality or meter of each, end quote, this really does make the simple song with a two-part structure an ideal vehicle for partial synthesis. Here we go, looby-loo. Here we go, looby-lie. Here we go, looby-loo. All on a Saturday night. I bum ba bum ba bum. Ba-yum ba bum ba bum. Ba-yum bum 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 ba bum 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 ba bum ba bum. Here we go, looby-loo. Here we go, looby-lie. It has the two parts. This Old Man is in two parts. There are many songs are in two parts. Many others are not, but many are. Choose wisely. Later on in this particular chapter, Gordon continues commenting about the value of partial synthesis. Quote, remember, at the partial synthesis level, students learn to discriminate among series, as in more than one, of tonal patterns and rhythmic patterns, not just among individual patterns. Patterns, pairs of patterns. At the partial synthesis level, there have to be two of something. And if they're not, then it's not partial synthesis. And the pairs have to be, each one of the pair have to be opposite. So it should be relatively easy to create classroom activities that incorporate partial synthesis. It's essentially a challenge. Gordon challenges us to challenge our students to identify what mode we're singing in. The quote Gordon, or the statement Gordon makes in this book, his book, if nothing more, and I'm quoting, if nothing more, partial synthesis skill enables students to listen to music in a musically intelligent manner. And that's worth the price of admission. If something is missing in our music programs, is that children are not listening intelligently. They're following our directions by and large. We're handicapping students because of the way we were trained. That's not our fault. That's just what happened to us. And yet we have the ability to move on. And possibly we have the responsibility to move on past what we know is a flawed system of music literacy. It works. We get great results. And it works for a very small portion of students. And there are millions of students who I believe would benefit from an education grounded in Gordon's ideas.